Well, I wasn't going to make a video today, but of course this big Wikileaks story is of national importance, and so I can't just stay silent about it. I will post a link to Zach's video on the issue as well, and this concerns all of us. I'll start out with a, in case you haven't heard, I mean, it's all over the news now, that Wikileaks, the organization Wikileaks, which is international basically in scope, and doesn't have a physical address, so to speak, because it is an organization which leaks certain governmental documents to the public in the interest of public knowledge about what their governments are doing. And this is not just about the US government, by the way. This concerns many other governments as well. So we're talking here about the Afghanistan leak, and I'll start out with some quotes from an article by Glenn Greenwald over at Salon. I'll post links to all this stuff as soon as I'm done making this video. The most consequential news item of the week will obviously be, or at least should be, the massive new leak by Wikileaks of 90,000 pages of classified material chronicling the truth about the war in Afghanistan from 2004 to 2009. Those documents provide what the New York Times calls an unvarnished and ground-level picture of the war in Afghanistan that is in many respects more grim than the official reports. Now, the editorial here by the New York Times is somewhat kind towards what is being put out there. The Guardian describes the documents as a devastating portrait of the failing war in Afghanistan, revealing how coalition forces have killed hundreds of civilians in unreported incidents. Taliban attacks have soared, and the NATO commanders fear that neighboring Pakistan and Iran are fueling the insurgency. The White House, of course, has swiftly vowed to continue the war and predictably condemned Wikileaks rather harshly. It will be most interesting to see how Democrats, who claim to find Daniel Ellsberg, who leaked the Pentagon Papers, heroic, and basically this leak by Ellsberg unambiguously justified, now follow the White House's lead in this regard. Basically, this latest leak, just like the prior one, was exposing the amoral duplicity of a Democratic administration back when LBJ was in power, and occurred when there was a Republican in the White House. We're talking about the Pentagon Papers here. This latest leak, by contrast, indicts a war which a Democratic president has embraced as his own, and documents similar manipulation of public opinion and suppression of the truth well into 2009. It's not difficult to foresee that media coverage of this latest leak will be about whether or not it should have been leaked in the first place, rather than what the actual documents have to reveal. Note how obviously lame the White House's prime tactic thus far is for dismissing the importance of this leak. And it is basically, Glenn Greenwald points to another article, which I will quote from, and this was written by Jay Rosen. The initial response from the White House was basically pretty unimpressive. The leak will harm national security, they say, as if those words still had any kind of meaning at all. There's nothing Also, they said there's nothing new here. So how could the release then harm national security if there's nothing new? Wikileaks is irresponsible, they say. They didn't even try to contact us, the White House or the U.S. government or the Pentagon, is what they're saying. But hold on, you and the Pentagon are hunting this guy down for trying to publish that information. So why would he contact you in the first place? Wikileaks is against the war in Afghanistan, so it's not exactly an objective news source. No, and it also doesn't editorialize anything. It simply provides raw documentation without editorializing, period. And that does not make these documents fake. So the period of the time covered in these documents, this is, the typical White House denial here, is before the president announced the new strategy. Some of the disconcerting things reported are exactly why the president changed the strategy and had a review over the strategy. Okay, so what's the problem then by leaking these documents? So because basically now we know the basis of the change in strategy, don't we? So much for transparency. The Wall Street Journal predictably wrote basically an editorial today entitled UK official, UK, never mind the US, UK official downplays the significance of documents. While WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange was touting the importance of his Afghan war document drop in London, the UK top foreign policy official was in Brussels downplaying the importance of this leak. There's no mention that the United States government is doing exactly the same thing. This, of course, is very predictable coming from the Wall Street Journal. All the allegations, this official said, about the levels of civilian casualties, they should not be damaging the international effort. And he added that any such leaks will not poison that atmosphere, and I don't think that they will. Atmosphere? Are we talking about an atmospheric disturbance here when hundreds and thousands of people are getting killed? Yeah, so that's the Wall Street editorial for you. And I'll post links to other documents.